of riya, like any form of you memorizing the Quran to impress someone, or you remember, how do you combat that in your journey?
Jamil, Wallah, that's a very big question. It's a very important question, and it's very important that when we're doing any act of worship, that we constantly asking ourselves that question, that what must I do in order to combat the nafs, which is going to want something in return. It's going to want something. The nafs wants recognition, it wants worldly matters, it desires that. Therefore, I need to fight that, I need to combat that, I need to battle with that constantly in order to stop that from occurring. How can I do that? The first step is that I constantly must ask myself why. Because sometimes we are heedless of why we're doing something, and we just are doing it without actually knowing why we're doing it. So I must constantly ask myself, stop and just have a moment of reflection. Why am I doing this? Why am I memorizing the Quran? Why am I constantly going to the halaqah to recite my shaykh? Why am I furthering my studies of the Quran? Why am I doing all this? If I constantly I'm asking myself that question, and I'm able to answer that I'm trying to attain the love of Allah and the pleasure of Allah and the reward of Allah Azza wa Jalla, and that's ikhlas. But if the answer to that, because you know yourself deep down inside what you're trying to seek, what you truly seek, if the answer is that no, I'm not seeking that, and I'm seeking something else, I'm seeking recognition, I'm seeking praise, I'm seeking fame, I'm seeking wealth, I'm seeking whatever it may be, then it must be a moment that I must pause, I must stop immediately, and I must correct that and then carry on. Right? I must fight that battle constantly. And it's a difficult battle. Nobody says that battle is going to be easy. It's a battle that's throughout your life. There's no such thing as that you get comfortable and you start to think that, you know what, I've conquered that. There's no such thing as that. The moment you think that you've conquered the nafs and you've defeated the nafs and yet you are sincere 100%, that's when you're not sincere. That's when shaitan has convinced you that you have become relaxed so that he can ruin your intention, and he has succeeded in doing so, and he's convinced you that you are fine. The moment you become comfortable and you think that I'm okay, that's when you are in dangerous territory. The Sahaba radiallahu anhu were never ever content with their state. They were never comfortable with what they're doing. They always believed that I'm not doing enough, that I must do more. They were never content with the amount that they done, even though they done so much and they accomplished so much. They had that mindset that I must do more. They had that mindset, perhaps what I've done has not been accepted, therefore I need to do more, perhaps with more sincerity, so that hopefully Allah tabarak wa ta'ala can accept it, and so on. Because of that mindset, that's what pushed them and motivated them to do a lot more good, to keep going, to keep striving. And that's what Allah Azza wa Jalla tells us, that أُولَٰئِكَ يُسَارِعُونَ فِي الْخَيْرَاتِ وَهُمْ لَهَا سَابِقُونَ. Those individuals that have that trait, they hasten towards goodness and they beat everyone to it, because of that mindset that I haven't done enough, that I don't have anything to show Yawm al-Qiyamah, I have nothing to come in front of Allah Azza wa Jalla with, therefore I need to at least have something that I can, Yawm al-Qiyamah can save me from the punishment of Allah Azza wa Jalla, and I can take that Jannah. When you have that mindset, you're going to keep striving, you're going to keep thinking, you know what, I need to do more, I haven't done enough, I haven't achieved anything. But the moment you have self-amazement, or you think, you know what, I've done so much, wow, look at me, I have this title, I am this person, I've accomplished this, I've accomplished that, and you are praising yourself, and you become deluded by the concealment of Allah Azza wa Jalla over you. You're deluded by that. That's one of the most dangerous states someone can be in. And sometimes a lot of people are deluded by the concealment of Allah, that Allah concealed their faults and their sins from the eyes of the others. And then they start to, or they become deluded with the blessings that Allah Azza wa Jalla has bestowed upon them, that they didn't even achieve due to their hard work or anything, but Allah Azza wa Jalla bestowed upon them from His pure mercy and His bounties. Then they become so deluded that they start to believe that this is all because of how hard they worked and how much they strived. But in reality, there's only a little bit of hard work that you put in. Allah Azza wa Jalla favored you, and you become ungrateful to Allah Azza wa Jalla, and you forget that Allah Azza wa Jalla is the one who granted you this blessing, and Allah favored you, and Allah granted you the Quran, and then you turn your back on Allah Azza wa Jalla, and you start using the Quran for worldly matters, and you forget the reason why you initially sought this Quran, and the reason why you initially learnt it. That's the greatest failure, and that's the most dangerous thing that one should fear, because we're told constantly, we hear all the time, that we are told that amongst the first people who are going to be punished before even the idol worshipper is the one who knew the Quran, and one who was a scholar, one who knew that knowledge, etc. Because of that lack of sincerity, because he should have known better, right? Because he had that knowledge. Again, amongst the first people who are going to be punished is that the people of hellfire, they're going to come across a person who's in the hellfire that they knew very well. They'll say to him, Ya Fulan, ألم تكن تنهانا عن الشر وألم تكن تأمرنا بالخير بالمعروف. Did you not used to prohibit us from doing evil, and you used to command us to do the good? Why is it that you are in the hellfire? And then he respond, now there's no time to lie. He will be honest. He will say, Ya Allah, he will say, oh people. He said, كنت آمركم بالخير فلا آتي وكنت أنهاكم عن الشر وآتي. I used to command you to do good, and I never used to do it. And I used to prohibit you from doing evil, and I used to do it. I used to be the first one who does it. And that's why I've ended up here. These sort of things are things that terrify us. They should be things that strike fear in your heart, that make you think, you know what, I do not want to end up like that. Therefore, I don't want this knowledge that I've learned to be the reason why I end up in the punishment of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. You know that, look at the tarbiyah of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. Aisha al-Mu'mineen radiallahu anha, there was a man from the Tabi'een who used to come learn Quran from her. She used to teach him, she used to educate him and so on. And then she would teach him a little bit and she'd tell him, go and implement what I've taught you. Because the element of implementation was extremely important to them. So one day he came back earlier than he usually come back, and she asked him, have you implemented what I taught you? And he honestly said, no, I have not yet. So I'm going to do so, inshallah ta'ala. She said, then why have you come back for more? She said, فَلِمَاذَا تُكْثِرُ حُجَّةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكَ? Why are you increasing the evidences of Allah Azza wa Jalla against yourself يوم القيامة? So I'm not saying this to deter people from learning more. I'm not saying this to demotivate people from learning more. That's not the objective. This is actually meant to motivate us to correct the way we're doing things, to purify our methods of doing things. It's meant to motivate us to constantly fight our nafs so that it doesn't have any portion of this deed, and it's all for Allah Azza wa Jal. And that is the greatest way to live. And the Quran, when we actually open up a house to it and we learn the Quran and we learn the meaning of the Quran, that's why it's so stressed to learn the meaning of the Quran and to understand the meaning of the Quran and the tafsir of the Quran and to reflect upon the Quran, because it's one of the greatest things that helps you in being sincere. It's one of the greatest things that helps you being steadfast upon sincerity. It's one of the greatest things that enables you to seek the pleasure of Allah in everything you do. Why? Because you know Allah better through the Quran. And the more you know Allah Azza wa Jal, everything else becomes insignificant to you, because you know the greatest is Allah, and Allah Azza wa Jal is the greatest, and nothing else matters when it comes to Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. The Quran helps you in doing that. So when we learn the Quran, we should keep that in mind, that I need to learn the meaning of the Quran in order to become more sincere, so that my journey in the Quran doesn't become a journey that's an evidence against me yawm al-qiyamah.
SubhanAllah.
Now.